Rome, Fate of an Empire, a solo game coming from Gabe Barrett, which is Best With One Games. That's the publisher, and the designer I put right over here because I knew I'd forget that fast. I'm so sorry, Joe. Joe Clipful. Okay. And it's going to be, what, $26.99, something like that. $5 or $6 shipping. It's going to be on the Gamefound page, depending where you get it shipped from. Prototypes 95% complete. Few changes, I will note them. How does it play? It's inspired by games like Mage Knight, as well as some other, I believe, like a civilization builder kind of thing. I worked hard to tuck that in. How does it play? Well, you explore by going around this tableau here. You start at the capital with your little piece, and you get to move around and explore. Sometimes you will run into encounters where you have combat. You successfully complete that combat in order to win certain rewards. Let's get back here. You can move around as you like. You're also gaining resources as you play the game. You've got gold, you've got blacksmithy equipment, you've got stone, you've got food or wine in the grapes, and you've got water. All of these are things that you accrue in order to spend and place advancements onto your tableau. So as you explore, you're able to develop. Those developments help you to build an engine. The engine helps you to score points. What is the point of the game? The point of the game is to win by scoring points. How many points? That's determined by the edicts that you draw, 2 or 3. If you decide to play a short game, which by the way, short is 1 hour, good to know. Long game is longer than that. A long game, I believe, has 3 edicts. So you get to draw a certain amount, like 3 or 4, and then you keep 2 of them. I don't remember whether it's 3 or 4. But anyway, you draw and you select the 2 edicts that you think are going to go best with your character. You complete the requirements of the edict and you win the game. All right? And you have to do it within a certain number of rounds. How many rounds? That depends whether you're playing a short or long game. Short game is up to 3 rounds. Long game is up to 4 rounds. The game will automatically end if you reach the end of those rounds. Each round can have a different number of turns, extending each round. So your first round is the shortest. You don't have to take all the turns in the round, and then the second round's a little longer if you want it to be. You can always end the rounds earlier by running out of cards that you can draw. You run out of cards that you can draw, and it's the end of a round. I know I'm trying to do this in sort of a, what did they call that, Virginia Woolf? Stream of consciousness, logical manner. Anyway, those are the edicts. Quick example. Glory to Rome. Build at least 2 level 2 developments. There are level 1 developments, and then there are level 2 developments that come out later on. First 2 rounds only have level 1 developments. Next round has level 2 developments. You get developments from the market, and you place them adjacent to the capital or any other development. Okay. So either 2 level 2 need to be done, or 1 of each of the 4 types. You'll see they have different colors. So this one would be stone, gray, and then this is military, is the pink, and then we got the blue for culture over here, and there should also be a green somewhere in there. So I could have 4 level 1 of each of the different colors or types, and 1 level 2 in order to do that. Also, I'd need to have 15 victory points at the end. Had a stutter there. I love it. Then you would complete this. I won't walk through all of it. You get the idea. You can get negative points, which count against you at the end of the game, if you get things like loans. Loans give you money up front, but you have to pay it back, and you have to pay more. If it's still in your tableau or your work area, your progress area, excuse me, at the end of the game, you lose victory points. Same thing with Strife. Strife is just negative. It would be -2 victory points for each strife you have at the end of the game. You're able to get rid of them by spending culture cards to get rid of that strife. We're putting those off to the side. You've seen the edicts. I'll put it here. This is not how you would lay out the game to play it. I do this because of recording, and this is just how it works, so you can see everything you need to see. Since it's solo, you can have everything facing you. That's how it's designed to be, and I've made some special requests for the graphic design. We will talk about that at the very end. Okay. Oh my goodness. So we looked at that. You've got a market over here. This market is your developments. You're able to purchase them for the amount of gold listed above. When you purchase it, you have a choice about where it goes. You're going to have a hand of cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Usually. Depends on the leader you pick. Let's say I have 5. I purchased one of these. I'd have to have 4 gold. Let's say I had 5 gold. So I pay 4 gold. Boom. Then I would get to take that, and I have a choice. I can place it into my progress area, or I can place it into my hand, or I can place it into my discard pile. If I place it in discard, it means I'm planning on using it in the next round when I reshuffle my discard pile and draw. If I place it in my progress area, it means that I'm ready to build it to get it up here. In order to get it up here, I need to be able to meet the requirements of placing it. In this case, I would need to have 7 of, I call it justice, but it's something else, industry. I would need 7 industry points in order to place this. Well, how do you get industry points? The cards in your hand. You'll see these are each have their own text ability, but they also have attribute values. Okay, I'm going to call them attributes. I hope I don't mix that up. So this is worth 2 industry attributes. So there, I've got 2. And then do I have any more? I don't have any more straight up industry. So how would I do this? How would I get to 7? When building, well, I could use the text value of a card. When building a development, spend 1 of any resource to gain +2 of the needed attribute. Let's say that I had 4 of the equipment or the iron or whatever that is. There we go. I'm going to spend 1 to gain 2 more. So I'm now at 4. Okay, so I played that. I'm at 4. Well, I can play these face down for 1 of any attribute value. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I now have 7. With those 7, I can place this anywhere that's valid on the map. You can't place it if there's a combat token there. Great, so you start building out your tableau. When you place it, different things can happen. If there's a lightning symbol like this right here, you gain that benefit immediately. If it's an infinity symbol, then that's something that is effective all the time. Villas may not be adjacent to the capital, so that's not legal. I wouldn't have been able to do that. Let's pretend and say this was here, then I would place this adjacent to that. Adjacent means orthogonally adjacent. We're going through this all right. Once you take something from here, you do not refill it until you get to the next turn. Yes, you replace it each turn. Okay. Refill it each turn. Also in the market, this is just to track your victory points, by the way. Also in the market, you can buy advanced attributes. You have a starting deck of 16 basic attributes, and those 16 are slightly different based on each leader. There are 6 different leaders that you can choose to play with, each with, what do we call that? When they're not equal, you know, whatever, different abilities. What is that called? It's like when you have 1 versus many. I don't know. Anyway, each one has their own special abilities different from another. Usually 1 positive, 1 negative, something like that. You can purchase advanced attributes, so that makes it a little bit of a deck builder where you are putting cards into your hand in order to use them immediately or draw them later in the next round. You have to pay the amount of gold. You take that and you get to put it in your hand. You can go over your hand limit, which is indicated on your leaderboard. In this case, I have a hand limit of 5. You can go over that and you don't have to discard down, but you can't draw more cards past that, okay, from your deck over here. I think that's pretty good. Each one of these has their own abilities. So, attribute cards, they have a top and a bottom. So you can play the top value or the bottom, which is considered boosted. The bottom is just you play the card and you get to apply whatever it says to do. Or you can boost it by spending an attribute of the matching color or gold. Gold is wild. Gold is harder to come by though, it's more valuable, so use the attribute when you can. So let's say this is red. So if I spend 1 red, then I get to do the boosted power, which is always more powerful. You can only do one or the other, and you would put that in your discard pile when you're done with it. You can also use your attribute cards for movement. So you just put it down. You start out with 4 movement tokens. I think that's all you can ever have. There's only that many in the game. Well, how much do you move? Well, you take your movement token, and you look here. My movement value is 1 is right here at 0, so I get a movement value of 2. If this was upgraded, I could have a movement value of 3. So you turn this, so whatever the value is face up. In this case, it's 2. I get 2 movement points to use however I want, whenever I want. So I can go move for 1. Then I can take some actions here. I still have 1 point left, so I'll turn that. Maybe I want to move here and fight. That's how you do your movement. And that stays there just to remind you. You can do up to 4 movements. Finishing up the market, at the end of every turn, you get to refresh this market. So you slide everything down. If you bought anything, boom, boom. And then you flip over. In this case, we're in round 1, so I would only flip over the level 1 cards. But if it was round 2, then you can flip over the level 2 cards. All right, so we've got that filled up and ready for the next turn. You don't do that when you purchase. You do that at the end of your turn. We'll get to the phases and turns. Hang in there with me. So let's look at our big map in the middle. How does this work? Well, you get to move around. Let's say I moved here. You get to flip over the combat tokens that are adjacent to your leader that's moving around here. So now I know combat values. How does combat work? It's actually pretty simple. You've got a defense value in the top left of 4. What that means is I need to play a total of 4. So let's say I have my hand of cards. Let's hope there's some attack. Here we go. So I've got this. This is my attack or military. So I'd have my military right there. I would need to play military cards to get an attribute equal to 4. But they also are going to attack. So let's say I played 4 military. Well, I beat it. That's good. But then they still attack for 3, which would mean that I would need to, I believe, take a strife. Take a strife for each. Maybe there's something else where you can spend gold instead. I don't recall that right off the moment. But anyway, it hurts you. It's not good. So I would want to play an additional 3 military in order to block that attack value. You don't have to. It's just negative things happen if you don't. If you win that battle, then you immediately gain the bonuses on the bottom. 1 victory point and 3 gold. How do you gain victory points? By building developments and through the military here. That's how you do it. So then I would take that, gain the benefits. Awesome. I forget what it said. I'm going to pretend it was 3 water. It wasn't. It was 3 gold and a victory point. So we'll move our little victory point up. Boom. All right. So then you can move through this and not fight. It doesn't matter. It's just that you cannot benefit from that card until you remove the military. So let's say I moved over here. Then some of these have the boot icon and some of them have the conquest icon. And I'm actually blanking right now whether you get this when you move onto it or when you place the development. I know with the castle ones, it's when you place a development. So little brain spot there. And unfortunately, my notes are on my phone, which is my camera. And that's the problem when I don't have printed instructions. I do try to print them out. Didn't in this case. Anyway, you get those benefits. So let's say I built something. Then when you place something on it, say the mineral deposits, let's say I was there instead. And I had an aqueduct in my hand. I place this. I get to gain that benefit. Gain 1 gold immediately when you go on there. Pretty cool. Some other things you can do with cards that don't have developments. Once the development's on, whatever's on the card is no longer used. Let's say I moved here on my movement turn. Now I can do something in making an agreement. All right. So I've got my little tokens here. You have a certain number depending on your leader. It tells you right on the board how many. In this case, I start the game with 3. If I level up culture, then I can get even more. All right. Now, let's say I spend 1 here for a trade agreement. What I do is I decide, am I going to put it over here or over here? This is part of how you start building your engine. I would have to spend 3 industry. Is that industry? No, that's 3 technology points. And I think it's technology points for every one of these. Yeah. I would need to spend 3 technology points from my hand. So I'd play those. Boom and boom. That's actually 4, but it's fine. So I spend it and I put it right there. I get to follow the instructions for that. Gain 2 steel now and end this agreement, or stone. All right. So what I would do is I would take those. I would get my however many it said to take. Boom. And put this here. it is now ended. That agreement's over. The only way to get that token back is to build a development on top in which I remove that token and return it down here. Got that? Cool. The other thing you can do is the level 2, which just cost more. So I would have to spend 6 technology in order to do it. I would put this here. I would immediately gain that stone. And then at the beginning of the next turn, I would get to gain another stone, just like it says. So I would put this here. And then at the end of the next turn, I would gain another stone, slide this over. The agreement has ended. So that's part of your engine building. Another thing I can do on this tableau area is I can place influence tokens. So when I'm on a spot, if there is a development or the capital, I can place an influence token. So let's say I moved here, place an influence token. Then I moved here, place an influence token. And let's say I moved there. You have up to 4 influence tokens. You can gain more by upgrading your technology. All right, what do you do with influence tokens? At any time, you can activate these influence tokens with this asterisk ability or this on spend ability, spent. How do you do that? Well, I would flip it over to show that it's spent. Then I would activate whatever benefit is sent right there. At the end of your turn, any spent of these, not agreements, influence tokens get returned back. If it's not spent, it stays right there. Sometimes you have a choice between different ones. There may be a little more there, but I think I covered that pretty well. So going down here, you've got your resources. I don't think we need to cover that more. So now you have your leader abilities. They have special things that happen as well as all of these tracks here. So in the case of Augustus, and these are double-sided to show some of the different leaders you can have. Livia, Marcus, Trajan, all that stuff. All right, in his case, -1 military cost for conquer actions. That's fighting. Good. So instead of 4, I would only need 3. Excellent, I like that. -1 attribute cost for building developments. Excellent. So instead of 3 of culture cards, I would only need 2 in order to get that built. Awesome. Also, when you place this, I forgot to say, when you place this, you gain the victory points immediately, as well as whatever bonus is right there. Okay. Going back to this. City of Marble, this is negative. It costs +1 gold to buy a development. So instead of 3 gold, I'd have to pay 4. And foreign trade. You don't need your leader pawn on a territory to make an agreement there. Normally, I would have to be on that spot to place an agreement. I don't have to if I have my dude, Augustus. You cannot do that, obviously, if there's a military or a conquest icon on it. You have to defeat that first in order to use the card. We already covered that. Next comes these right here. These get upgraded in different ways by your building your developments, cards you might play. You get to upgrade very slowly, and you get more benefits as you upgrade these. In this case, you get more chances, you get more tokens for trade agreements. Technology gives you more influence. Military gives you a bigger hand size. Industry gives you more movement. Population gives you certain benefits from a few developments, mainly from the capital. It gives you certain bonus based on how much population you have. So the final thing that I want to cover before we go into my final thoughts then is, what is the flow of the game? Well, you have basically 3 phases. First phase, if you have any developments, let's say I had some developments down here that I did not end up making, but it's the end of my turn, then I would have to pay, I believe it's 1 gold. It might be listed somewhere else, but I believe it's 1 gold, something like that. You pay a negative, or you have to take a strife if you can't do that for each one that you have down here. Next, you get your income that you generated from your engine up here. Then you move to your actions phase where most of the things happen. You draw up to your hand limit. So if I had 4 cards, I'd draw up to my hand limit of 5. Super cool. Then I get to take my actions in any order that I want. So I can do movements, all the stuff that I showed you. Those are all your actions. You can do any of that in any order at all. The turn ends when you run out of actions to take. So that doesn't mean you have to spend all your cards. You can keep some in your hand, but whenever you're done with all your actions, then you move the turn marker up. That's the end of your turn. Beginning of the next turn, you would Draw up to your hand limit, refresh any empty spots here. Boom, slide them down, put them up, and also get your any influences, go back in here. Any influences that were spent, go back in here. All right, then you take your next turn until you get to the end of the round. So that means your turn token either gets up here to round 1, or if you have no more cards to draw from, that also ends the round. Either one. Once you end a round, then we go to our cleanup phase. End of the round, we would clear this. We would clear this completely, put new cards in, do our normal cleanup, go to round 2, reset our turn marker, and continue. So maybe the cleanup phase is also called cleanup after the turn. But I put it, that's how I did it. That's how I did it. Please correct me in the comments. I like hearing from the publisher and the designer. But that leads actually to my final thoughts, a couple polishes that I think need to be done. So as far as the phases, that would be a lot easier for me if we have, which I think you can totally easily do, and I can update in the comments if you do. I've mentioned it to the publisher. He thought it was a good idea just to have a card with a reminder of the round phases. So, you know, your cleanup, your actions, your and then the starting phase. Put those on a card just to make it easier. And also, maybe on the flip side of that card, a list of the actions available. Not details, but just, you know, a quick summary. That would be nice. The other thing that doesn't need corrected, but just needs noted for the prototype, yes, there's extra space. You can see extra white space on the card stock. That will be chopped off, no problem. And the other was, since this is a solo game, generally when you're playing solo, everything can be facing you, so I like it to be. As this is laid out, normally this would be turned this way, and so this is how the card would be facing me, right? Which means that the text is sideways, so I have to turn it each time to look at it. For a solo game, I really don't like to do that, so I did ask the publisher if there's any possible way to make these sideways, because there's enough room on here to do it, actually, that these can all be sideways like this, so that they're all facing, and then these could have an icon to go over there. Maybe. It's just a little request. That may not bother others. I just like everything to face me for a one-player game. So then that just leads to the quality. Quality's fine. These are your normal cards. You can see the card stock for this. That's what you're going to get. And you can also see the artwork. The artwork is historically accurate. So there was one error with something where they found that item didn't actually exist. So they're correcting it. So they're going for historical accuracy. At first I was going to be hard on it because I was like, well, this art is not getting hung in the Louvre anytime soon. However, I actually really like the attribute art. It's totally fine. It's functional. It gets the point done. It's a little bit fun. I will say the development art is the only thing where I would say it's a, you know, it could be better. It could be better, but it's functional and it gets the job done. It's not cluttered, and I can read this. If I just have that phase card, I can play this without having to refer to the instructions. And that's all I want. I want to read the instructions once and then be able to remember it based on the graphic design. Given that, I think the graphic design's excellent. This is a fun game. This is a nice puzzle mixed between the exploration. If I don't want to get Mage Knight out and get all that stuff out, I think this is a great other game to play like it. But it's not the same game because it's got that civilization aspect to it. That's it. Let me know what you think. Give a like, subscribe, put any questions you have in the comments below. I love you all. I'll see you next time.